all I get is I'm looking for my brother, and she seems to just take her for fancy dinners and pull pearls out of her fuff. So like.
Hello everybody, so we are Boys on Film. My name is Phil Marriott. My co-host who always braves the storm is Mr. Sean Vickers. He's there with his small hands. It's been a while, hun.
It has been a while, hasn't it?
Where you been?
Artfully dodging horror films.
Yeah, we've done a few, Paul and I.
I'm so thrilled that you and Paul are doing all that horror. As I saw him recently, it was like almost like on the floor thanking him for having to deal with all the horror so I don't have to. A blessing, a real blessing.
It's great because we've come to the conclusion that you kind of do the arty stuff, Paul does the horror stuff, Raj does, you know, a bit of everything, the Hollywood stuff. Oh, I say the Hollywood blockbusters, not that we do many of those. But yeah, it's quite a nice balance, I think, Boys on Film.
I think it works. Don't make me watch a horror film.
We need to get more guests, though. We're going to do some more lives, hopefully, in the future.
Oh, good. Yeah, let's do that.
And we've got the BFI London Film Festival coming up. I know so many people that can see about 6 films in one day at the festival, like, you know, LFF, and I struggle with 3. 3 I can do at a push.
3 a day is at 3 films. I'm like, put me in a dark room, like leave me alone. Like
not that kind of dark room though.
No.
Filth.
I mean,
filth.
You can put me in that dark room. I might be revitalised.
So the film is It Snows in Benidorm. I was very much looking forward to seeing this because I am a big fan of Timothy Spall, who stars in this. Big Mike Leigh fan, of course. It goes without saying, if you're into Mike Leigh, you're going to love Timothy Spall because he's been in so many of his films. This is a film also starring Surita Choudhury, who was recently in, what was it called? Was it It's Just Like That? The Sex and the City spin-off?
And Just Like That.
And Just
she
Like
was
That.
the realtor. She's like an estate agent, as we call it in the United Kingdom.
And it's written and directed by Isabel Coixet, Spanish director, film director. She's done quite a few films in the past. I don't think I've seen any. Have you seen any of her films?
No, is it produced by Almodovar?
It is. See, this was a real shocker because I didn't realise this going into this film, but afterwards did a little bit of research, obviously, for this review, and I was quite surprised by that. Do you think it had his mood?
There's elements of it, I think.
Yeah.
There's touches of spirit. There's bits like when there was the ladies doing Tai Chi in the all-body,
yes,
which I thought, oh, that feels quite Almodovar. There were moments of it where I thought there was a spirit of Almodovar without it being overtly him. So it tells a story of Peter Reardon, played by Timothy Spall. He has this kind of very run-of-the-mill kind of banking job in the UK that he's done for, it seems like, about 20 years. And one day he comes into work and he's been offered his redundancy papers. And they're like, go live your life, go and have fun. And he's a person of routine, so you have all of this, like, has the same cup of tea every morning as an apple before bed. And his brother lives in Benidorm, and they haven't seen each other for 10, 12 years. And he decides to head out to Benidorm to see his brother and to spend some quality time with him now that he's got all his time in his hands. And the story begins really with him arriving in Benidorm and his brother not being there to greet him.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because that part of the plot I thought was forgotten about as we were introduced to Surita Choudhury's character. And obviously there were other supporting cast members in there as well, which played a part in the story. It seemed to be just tossed to the side.
I think there's quite a lot of things tossed to the side in this film, to be honest.
There's quite a lot going on, although it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like there was a lot going on.
You had this idea of him like trying to find his brother or trying to spend time with his brother. And I get this sense of, you know, as a character, he starts to live a little, unpacks life a little. He's in Benidorm, which for many people is a very kind of like, I don't know, run-of-the-mill Spanish town where people go on holiday. But for him, I think it's quite liberating and eye-opening because he gets exposed to Surita Choudhury's character, who works in a burlesque club that his brother owns.
Pulling objects out of her nether regions.
Let's leave that there.
Which is another weird thing, isn't it? Because the audience was full of, like, pensioners who wouldn't really have necessarily been there watching that kind of erotic cabaret.
Like, why is no one going, oh, I've turned up at this you know,
they seem to kind of like
show
expecting what they were seeing, but I don't think they would have been there for that.
I think they were probably like, oh, it's going to be like fans over boobs, you know. Yeah. And the next thing you know, pearls out of a very unique place.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, I must admit.
I
When
wasn't
I was
thinking
thinking about the mood of the rest of the room going into it, it seemed quite poignant and serious, and then all of a sudden there was that. I was like, wow, that's really opened my eyes.
I also find them a bit of a, there something blossoms between them, but I find them a bit of an odd couple. I'm not sure
Yeah.
that I generally thought they had chemistry as a couple.
No, I thought exactly the same thing, because independently, I thought their performances were great, but as a couple together, I didn't think they matched at all. It was weird. And also, you mentioned on, obviously Benidorm is the setting. We see all the cliches. As he arrives, you see him walking through Benidorm, and you see the hen parties there with their willies on their boppers, the dealy boppers, and all the cliches that you expect like it to be like Benidorm is, or can be, I suppose. I mean, I haven't been for a good few years, but all those ideas, I mean, some interesting ideas, Brexit and obviously family reinvention, and also nods to living and also visiting abroad isn't what it was or what it used to be post-Brexit. So I suppose there were nods to that, but it seemed to be a real mishmash. I don't think it was very cohesive.
No, I mean, it had a start, a middle, and an end. It had resolution, but I'm not sure the resolution that we got was a resolution that the director wanted us to take away with. I don't know whether it really went anywhere.
No, I felt like coming out of it, I felt like I'd been dreaming almost, and also it felt more like a mood and a set of experiences rather than a story and a normal film that we would see. It didn't feel like there was really a purpose to it. It just felt like I was just experiencing what they were experiencing. But I must admit, I found it quite tedious, and at a 2-hour pace as well. I thought the pacing was a bit off.
Yeah. Because I think you're right about what you were saying earlier. We're supposed to be following Timothy Spall's exploration of life after basically living in this kind of like monotonous doldrum day in, day out. He's now thrust into this very different world. But the way that it suddenly anchors to his missing brother, that becomes secondary. And I actually think how it plays out for him becomes secondary. Because, yeah, he's experiencing all of this stuff, but I don't know, it becomes slightly redundant about who he is as a character, and this brother that we never really meet becomes kind of like Scarlet Pimpernel, like really elusive. Like, who is this person? They sound really interesting. Where are they?
I know. I think that's why I felt a bit frustrated.
They sound great.
Because it did test my patience, and I don't think it was just because it was 2 hours. I think it was quite long, but I think that was mainly due to the pacing issues, and also I have to say about the studio setups at the beginning made me feel like I didn't believe what they were living through as well, because you see him at work, and I think some of the supporting cast didn't really do a great job. I have to say, I wasn't convinced by their performances. His boss especially, I didn't think was very good.
I totally agree. The boss was completely...
He wasn't convincing.
Yeah, it just didn't land. He didn't feel right.
No, absolutely not. And also his home set as well, when you see him having his bicky, like you say, a cup of tea, and he goes through his daily routines, it felt very stagey. It felt like it was almost like a theatre setup, like the sort of thing you would see on stage. It felt like a showroom rather than something that he'd been living in. It didn't feel lived in, his home.
No.
But I mean, that I suppose that's a minor gripe, because as the film does go on, I felt like I believed it more. When they went to Benidorm, I felt like that was more natural and it felt more believable.
Surita Choudhury's character, Alex, whilst mega interesting, again, I don't know where that character goes either. The character is a device. I'm trying to work it out, which is like, Alex is like a piece of mise en scène for some reason. She's trying to do something in relation to Peter Reardon's character. And I'm like, is it to draw him out of himself? Is it for him to have this realization that life's too short? Is it for him... What is it? And actually, all I get is, I'm looking for my brother. And she seems to just take her for fancy dinners and pull pearls out of her fuff. So, like, I am a bit like, okay, I think I understand what these characters supposed to be doing, but all right.
Yeah, because his character seemed very, like you say, went through routines, almost habitual and not very daring. He didn't seem like a daring character, whereas she did, because she didn't want to settle down. She didn't want to be this mundane person who just kind of, went through the motions. She was a bit more, she wanted life to be daring and adventurous, and he didn't seem to be that kind of character at all. So that's, I think, why they didn't really seem like a pair that would get on.
And there was a moment about 2/3 of the way in where I was like, oh, there's going to be some really sinister twist here. Like, they're all in on it.
I know the moment you're talking about. Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, is this it? And I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. But, like, there was a moment where I was like, hold on. They're connected. The policewoman's connected. Oh, wait a minute. This is the big ooh la la moment. No.
Yeah, because I had to actually look at my watch. I was like, how long have I been watching this film? Is this where it gets going? And it was about an hour and a half into it. And I thought, wow, they've really taken their time. But, like I say, as the credits rolled, I felt a bit nonplussed. Can I just tell you one thing that really annoyed me with this film, though? We have certain segments where it goes into a new scene, where obviously, because the title of the film is It Snows in Benidorm, and he's a meteorologist and he's part-time as well. He's obsessed by the weather and taking pictures of the weather. And we had almost like an explanation going into each segment where it would say, this is what's about to happen. It's like, we're going to have some snow, we're going to have some thunder, rain, and it's going to get chilly.
Yeah, that signposting was not required at all. Yeah. That was, congratulations, we have bottled pure cringe. Yeah, we did not need that at all. I don't know, I hear what you're saying. I hear maybe we should have been thinking something different, feeling something different, but I just didn't. And I can think back to it and I'm still like, I didn't. And actually, could I rewrite the end better? Probably yes. Because I think I could do a twist in this. It could be really good.
Yeah, the credits started rolling and I was like, is that the end? Wait, really? Is that how you sum it up?
And that's damning, I know. That's very damning of me. But I really felt like I was like, what I would do in the last 25 minutes of this film is the following. And, but hey.
Maybe you should save that for your feature debut.
Thank you, Phil.
Maybe do a reworking of It Snows in Benidorm.
I'm going to do loads of signposting of the movement of clouds as subsections of a movie.
I think there are pluses to it. I think Timothy Spall is great. I think Surita Choudhury is great. Supporting cast, a bit patchy. I think the story doesn't really go anywhere. I think there are some interesting ideas, but I don't think they were worked into the film that well. I'd be interested to see some of the director's previous films just to see how different they are to this, because it is the first film of hers that I've seen. But overall, I was not that impressed, despite Timothy Spall kind of doing his best with what he's got. It's a 2-star for me.
I didn't particularly like the cinematography.
No.
Didn't particularly like the script. Did like him. Did like Surita.
Yeah.
It's a 2-star. I'm going to give a star to Timothy Spall, and I'm going to give a star to Surita Choudhury, and I can't muster another one.
That is definitely going on the billboard. I can't muster another star. So there we go. It's called It Snows in Benidorm. Let us know below if you've seen it. Let us know if you're about to see it. I know it is still in cinemas. Thank you as always, Sean. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you everybody for watching.
Likewise, Phil.
Don't forget to check us out for our BFI LFF film festival coverage.
BFI LFF.
So what are we going for? Are we going for a target of films to watch this year? Are we going to go for maybe 60, 70?
What do we usually end up watching? I usually end up watching about 20 films. We have a bit of an overlap and we go, because basically what we do, viewers, is we all look at the list and then we kind of go, what turns us on? And then we kind of map it all onto a big Excel table and we go, okay, here's what we all want to watch. And generally speaking, there's a bunch of things that we all want to watch. And then there's a bunch of things that some of us want to watch, and then there'll be a bunch of things that I want to watch. And then we watch it all, and after, usually what happens is someone will go, oh, that thing that I want to watch was brilliant. Everyone should watch it. And then everyone watches that one. So we have a bit of a process, and then we kind of we try and do the reviews as soon as possible to just kind of get them moving along. But yeah, I think about 20 films.
We're there with our bingo dabber on the brochure, circling or dabbing on the films we were interested in. There are so many this year. I mean, I always say this every year, but this year, I think it's a really strong one. I think there's some amazing titles.
You
in the
do
programme
say
this
every
year.
year, Phil.
I do, but this year
it's
particularly.
a strong one.
Maybe it just gets better every year.
My reviews will be, they get shorter and more to the point as we get through the 20 movies.
You don't have time for that.
You don't like it? No. Next.
You can muster some energy for your star.
I'm going to try and muster some stars.
So we're looking forward to that. Don't forget to check out all the stuff that we've got online, filmmarriott.net. And don't forget, although they're not actually doing them anymore, unflopped.com, loads of podcasts from the past that you can check out, because they're not really time sensitive. You can listen to them anytime. They don't have to be time specific.
I think people are having a second wind.
Yeah,
people are going back and dip dabbing into them, which I think is great. And people still collar me in a nightclub and ask me about them.
Do they? So. You're famous. They want your autograph.
It's quite fun. I often get "Are you Sean from Unflopped?" usually in the RBT.
Good to see you, and thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you on the next one.